I'm gradually trying to sort the garden out ready for the summer, and today I thought I'd talk you through a couple of patio repairs that I've got to do, one larger than the other. Some howlers I've discovered, what I've learnt and what I've done to ensure this part of the patio at any rate never goes wrong again. Now, these patio slabs were laid back in July 2023, nearly 2 years ago. And on the face of it, it was done with a sort of 4-to-1, probably, maybe not that strong, 5-to-1 sand and cement mix. And doesn't look like anything particularly wrong with the way that Gaz, my builder, put these in. The only thing I can think of is that the absence of some sort of a primer or bonding agent like SBR was to blame. So we'll try and put that to rights when we've got this off. But the first job is to strip this off. It's going to come off pretty easily. I'm going to use my SDS drill. And if you buy an SDS drill, make sure it also has the chisel action for jobs like this. Quick tidying away the debris and we're ready for the next stage. Let's have a quick look at today's toolkit because I haven't done this for a while. Cement, builder's sand, sharp sand, new bucket, because the old one's, that's the old one. Found out during this job it's actually got a hole in it, which isn't ideal. General purpose spade, bucket trowel, gauging trowel, cement finishing and flooring trowel left behind in the garden by my builder. Been outside for a year. Needs fixing. Do that in a minute. Rubber mallet, small tool, SBR and a bucket to mix it in. And a bit of a first for me today. I've done a lot of cementing in my DIY projects over the years, but I've never had to mix enough cement in sufficient quantities to need to use a cement mixer. But that all changed with this job. Again, my builders had left behind their old cement mixer. You'll see why shortly. But I was intrigued to find out if it would work after being left outside without a cover for most of the winter. I was hoping it might just do one last job for me. Right. Let's give it a go. Whoa, it works! Now, I think there are two reasons why these patio slabs failed. And the first most important reason is there was no primer on the back of these sandstone slabs. So we're going to put that right now because I've done a bit of research and I've been reading that SBR slurry is what you need in this situation. Now, you've most probably used PVA in the past, but you might not have been so familiar with SBR. So what is the difference? Well, you can immediately see by the way it sloshes or doesn't slosh in the case of PVA around in the bottle that SBR is a lot thinner. But also this is water resistant and is suitable as an external render additive primer, whereas PVA bond, generally speaking, isn't because it's not water resistant. And I'd read that by making up an SBR slurry, you can vastly increase the adhesion between the slabs and the mortar bed beneath. This seemed like a good way to mix it. 1 part SBR. There we go. 1 part water. Then add cement to a smoothie cream consistency. It looks like it would be about 5 parts cement, which other people have said. Apparently you're not meant to aerate the mix as you mix it all in. How many builders are going to need it with their hands, for God's sake? Big dilemma I've got at the moment is how much to mix for that small step. So I'm just going to start in this bucket and fill my way a bit with my 1 part cement, 3 parts sharp, one part builders. I meant to put in 2 parts building sand but misread my notes. I need more than that, so time to double it all up. But why the need for sharp sand when my builders didn't bother? Well, for patio slabs, sharp sand is preferred over builders sand because its coarser grains and shape provide better drainage and more stable base for the slabs. Builders sand is usable for bedding, but it's less robust and can compact more easily, potentially leading to issues with movement and drainage, as we'll see shortly. See, that's the sharp. It's got just a little bit of a gritty consistency to it. Compare that to builder's sand and it's just like the sand you remember when you were growing up, pretty much. I had a little SBR in a container, so I thought that might as well go in. You can use it as an admix, and then I gradually added water to achieve a damp consistency, not runny, just allowing the bedding to hold its shape when spread without oozing water. I thought I'd start by adding the slurry to the brickwork on the step. It was the hottest day of the year so far and I should really have dampened the step before starting. And looking here, I think the slurry could have done with a bit more water, as the slurry was drying quickly and you want to apply the mortar to the slurry before it's dried. So then it was quickly on with the bedding mortar, using that finishing and flooring trowel to smooth it out. Onto the underside of the sandstone slab, and again I should have dampened the surface before applying the slurry. At this point I thought I'd check for adhesion. Ooh, that's pretty good, isn't it? But there was some real suction there. A quick reapplication of the slurry as it was drying too quickly. A dampened surface would have helped with that, and on goes the remainder of the bedding mortar. Turns out I'd fluked near perfect quantities. More SBR slurry on the back of the slab. Again, yes, I know I should have dampened the surface, and on it went. A quick check with the level, and then it was out with the rubber mallet that I bought a couple of days ago to make some minor adjustments to the slab. This one here, I just had a little bit, this was a bit low in relation to this one. So what I've done is I've just tapped it down on that right hand side, which has just brought the left side up. So now it's beautifully flat, but I'm leaving myself a sort of 15mm sort of void. For my pointing, the builders left huge voids under the main patio, more on that in a minute. So now I've just made a 4-to-1 mix of builder's sand and cement with a little bit of SBR in it. And I'm just going to tool that in underneath to finish the job. Happy with that, and I'll talk about the pointing in a bit. And so I was on to the much larger repair where an entire corner was loose and had sunk down into the flower bed. And pulling up the first tile was about to reveal exactly why. My God, look at that! There was a huge void under the main paving slab. I hope my builders aren't going to be watching this video, but this is how not to bed in a patio. I understand that, you know, a little bit of a void can help you to get the paving slabs to sort of knock them down a little bit, but I mean, look at this. And here's that point I made about building sand being less robust. Playground for ants and anything else that wants to go in there. You can see the gaps that have been left behind by all the little mites and things. We've got a pretty good sort of Type 1 MOT type base just here, although these three have got to come out as well. Okay, let's crack on. First job was to lever up those slabs as gently as possible so as not to crack them. Next, I was keen to salvage some of the resin pointing I laid because this is a tricky area I've now got some quite strong views on. I then excavated the entire area so I could start again from scratch. Broke up some of those lumps of bedding mortar with a sledgehammer and tamped them down in the corners of the patio where it had sunk down. And before you say it, I probably should have been wearing my steel toe caps for this. This is one of the most useful tools I've ever bought, and I strongly recommend you get one if you haven't already. Sub base was looking much better now and level. Time to knock up another pot of SBR slurry, and if I'm honest, I made quite a lot too much. And then it was time to crank up the cement mixer, the plan being to fill it with a bag of cement, 3 sharp sand and 2 builders. Now when using a cement mixer you're meant to add half the water you need first and then start to gradually add the rest. The problem I had was there were a couple of holes in the mixer where the mixing fins have become unwelded, and so I had to start with the dry materials, which made the whole process more tricky. Because as soon as I added water it started leaking out, even with the mixer propped up on tiles. The mix was looking pretty good until the mixer started developing a bit of a graunching noise. That doesn't sound very healthy. I hope it doesn't break before it's finished mixing it. I think sadly this will be the last outing of this machine. And I didn't put it on the stand as I thought it would be easiest to simply tip the mix straight onto the patio. Of course there is always a danger that that's way too much cement. I don't know, when I've smoothed this out, all ye of little faith. And actually we were probably about a half to a bag short. I'm reasonably pleased with the consistency, but my god it's hot today, so I'm going to have to work quick. Remember to dampen the surface today. And rolled the slurry on because I thought this would be much quicker than using a paintbrush. I reckon as a start for 10. Oh, I'm so pleased with that. More SBR under slab number 2. And that was lifted into place. I then took it up again because I decided it didn't have quite enough of the bedding mortar underneath the edges. I was going to need more mortar, and so I mixed up what I had left, and at this point the cement mixer finally stopped turning. As you can see, it's a slightly weaker mix. I didn't measure the quantities in my rush so carefully, and possibly a different colour builder sand, but I had just enough to get the job finished. All that was left was to tidy up the edges with my gauging trowel. So that's it for today. I've learned some new techniques. Has been that first for me of using a cement mixer. And I'm really pleased with how it's ended up. I think I could have probably pointed around the edges a bit better, but that's going to be covered with the soil. And after an exhausting day's work, I took my eye off the ball a bit there. I went straight for a beer when I should have been finishing it off. Overall though, bar another major ant infestation, I don't see myself having any more problems with that corner. Maybe let me know in the comments section whether you would have done anything differently on this project. But I suppose one thing I just want to kind of put out there is it's very easy for me to repair a corner of a patio properly like this with the right amounts of bedding mortar. I was aware that I had this problem because I started posting the odd clip on socials and on YouTube in the past of the way this had been put together, and people started saying, oh, it shouldn't have been done with that sort of dot and dab approach, you need a continuous bed of mortar. That's all well and good, but this is a big old patio. It would have taken a lot longer and it would have required a lot more material if it had been done properly. Remember, it took nearly 7 bags of materials. So that's just my thoughts at this stage of the video. Let me know what you think. Now, I haven't gone on to the pointing. I'm sorry if you were hoping to see that at the end of today's video. We're nearly 13 minutes in, and I just thought this is an area that requires its own video because I've got quite a lot to say about pointing after my experience with this patio last year. So that video will be coming out in a week or two. Keep your eyes out for that. It'd be great to see you again. In the meantime, details of everything I've talked about today will as usual be in the description below the video, which you can access by clicking on this button in the usual way. And if you're new to my channel, it would mean so much to me to have you subscribe. You can do that by clicking on the link up here, and don't forget to click the bell notification icon so you get notified of all my future uploads. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.